50,000 सब्सक्राइबर्स हो गए. Now on to 75. मैं रुकने वाली तो हूँ नहीं, तो जो लाल रंग का सब्सक्राइब बटन है उस पर क्लिक करें and that bell icon next to it. जैसे ही नया रिव्यू आएगा, सबसे पहली notification will come to you only यार. If she looks like Marilyn Monroe, talks like Marilyn Monroe and is named Marilyn Monroe, don't be certain that it's actually Marilyn Monroe. Hey all, my name is Sucharita. I'm a film critic. Welcome to my channel where I talk about movies and I occasionally get to talk with people making movies. Today, we're talking about Andrew Dominik's Blonde, based on Joyce Carol Oates' Pulitzer shortlisted biographical fiction book of the same name, now streaming on Netflix. इंडिया में उड़ती उड़ती खबरें इतनी आई नहीं है, but this Ana de Armas starrer has been embroiled in heated discussions and debates since its premiere at the Venice Film Festival, where apparently it received a 14-minute standing ovation, which is a metric of quality so overused and exploited by PR agencies at this point, it's pretty much lost all meaning. If you're clicking a stopwatch the minute people stand up as closing credits begin to roll, thinking you'll use this to gauge the competence of a film, we can't be friends. Now, Blonde tells an extremely fictionalized story of Marilyn Monroe's life right from childhood to her accidental overdose in her 30s. The writing is only inspired by her real life, and it is crucial to keep this distinction in mind as you get into the film. Let me explain. If you view this as a biography, this will hands down be one of the most infuriating experiences you've had. While watching, until I came close to understanding what Andrew Dominik was attempting to do, I couldn't wait to get as far away as possible from this film and its male gaze. After completion and time spent with the film in my head, I'm still not a convert. It's still not something I'm taking much from or feel the world necessarily needs right now, but its intentionality is clear. So you meet Marilyn back when she was Norma Jean, being raised by a single mother with mental health complications. Most of the flashback scenes are set in a 1933 Los Angeles fire, and they work exceptionally well to set up how the rest of Norma Jean's life is set to go up in flames too. The sequence twists your soul only in a way a person old enough to be able to look back at their own childhood scars and trauma, now aware of the impact that had on shaping them as people, would understand. See, for us in our 30s, we're at that age where Marilyn was perhaps at when she was looking back at her life, unaware of what's to come. So you want to reach into the screen and you want to protect the child, not just from her mother, but also from herself and the harmful life choices she's about to make, which could be traced back to this very day. Next, we meet Marilyn. She's already a pin-up girl, rapidly on her way to Hollywood superstardom, and as I assume was custom in the 50s, she was surrounded almost exclusively by men, jinki strength in numbers gave them extraordinary powers over women and impunity over all wrongdoing. This is where things get upsetting, and you realize this is 2 hours 47 minutes of a male writer-director bringing to your screens how horrifying it is to be a woman in the entertainment industry. His Marilyn is drawn to the big lights just as much as she wants nothing to do with them. This version of her gets her start in the industry after being violently sexually assaulted by the president of a big studio, and trigger warning, there are multiple violation and abuse scenes meted out to Marilyn at the hands of men much more powerful than her, including no less than the President of the United States. And you know, the film then continues to paint a morbid, horrifying picture of this actor's life, focusing only on her personal sexual relations with multiple men and her desperation to win a father's approval, a man whom she's never even met. She calls her husband's daddy and is more than eager to accept blame all the time, even when it's not hers to claim.
The hand.
How'd you get your start?
Maybe.
What start?
In movies.
I wondered why the writing completely overlooked the many other parts of Marilyn's life, her talents as an actor, as a singer. She was a businesswoman with her own production house, a civil rights activist. Instead, we're told, look how tortured her small, nubile body was, and her mind perhaps just as soft and malleable. She's always shown to be unhappy. She's unsure of herself, blubbering, the blonde stereotype. The writing seems to be holding her accountable for all that befell her. She should have been better prepared. She should have understood people better. She should have pushed back harder. While these victim-blaming notes are off-putting, the movie's anti-abortion sentiment is positively preposterous. In one particularly peculiar scene, a pregnant Marilyn, now seemingly happily married to a playwright, talks to her fetus, and the film cuts to CGI shots of an embryo floating in amniotic fluid. I didn't realize this version of Marilyn was so scientifically advanced she could see this happening inside her body. But that's not the bizarre part. I checked out when the fetus started talking back to her, blaming her for her previous decision to not have a child. This scene and another where a standing ovation post a movie premiere, uske dauran Marilyn is wondering why she decided on abortion over a successful movie career, feeds right into the anti-abortion propaganda. Look, this famous woman regretted what she did, ladies, and she died.
Marilyn Monroe only exists on the screen.
I wanted her misery and this movie both to end so badly, I began to look for a reason why it's been made the way it has. And then the horror genre began to present itself more clearly. While it's not horror like Spencer, with an incredible Kristen Stewart haunted by the promise of a life she could have had, while also being her most defiant self against a very strong institution, this felt more David Lynch's Mulholland Drive-esque, another film about the terror-filled life of a female actor in Hollywood. And when you begin to see the cinematography and edits and some match cuts highlight that, your anger dissipates a bit, but frankly not entirely. Do not consider Blonde a biographical retelling, it is far from it. If you were to believe this to be true, then you would think the actor was only ever happy in a brief throuple with Charlie Chaplin's son Charlie Chaplin Jr. and actor Edward G. Robinson's son Edward Robinson Jr., two actors who carry their father's name, something this Marilyn constantly looked for. Occasionally the gaze felt so exploitative, the film became a part of the very same voyeuristic, gossip-hungry mass media it claims Marilyn was hunted by. Ana de Armas looks strikingly similar to Marilyn Monroe. It's uncanny and incredible and has all the mannerisms down pat. But she's been made to cry so much. Her lip almost constantly quivering, her eyes watery. It begins to feel more like an imitation, less an interpretation. Every time we meet her, a new emotional trial begins without the previous one ending. Her love stories never end. Their tail ends just kind of mix into the next one. Her tragedies and misfortunes are tightly packed without a moment for any other emotion, any at all, to seep in to help her tribulations stand out more, humanize her. She had a full life. The ruthlessness and degradation go on for so long, deliberately ignoring all the stop signs, increasing in intensity. The film feels crafty and cruel, frankly.
As girls grow old.
So, I'm not the biggest fan of this extent of creative liberty in the name of someone who most certainly the world was already unfair to. Maybe this is Oscar bait. Maybe it is the director's genuine emotions towards the subject. If you'd like to find out, Blonde is streaming now on Netflix.
Please come. Don't abandon me.
Once again, here is a request for you to subscribe to my channel, and when you do so, please click the bell icon next to the subscribe button for notifications when the next review goes up. This week we're talking about Vikram Vedha and maybe something else as well. Thank you, my name is Sucharita. You're the best for stopping by.